It's late, but you can't sleep. Only a few days into the first lockdown of 2020, and already insomnia has sunk its teeth into your brain. Quarantine is taking a toll on your mind that won't be understood for years to come, but for the moment, you just want some kind of peace. So, you do what we all do. You lose yourself in a screen. Opening Omegle, you make an attempt to connect with other humans. However, the thing you're presented with is not human. It's a monster. In May 2020, a chilling event spread across the internet, a grisly true crime story for the pandemic era. As a result of the lockdowns, many people were spending more time online, seeking human connection through digital services like Omegle, chat roulette, and the usual suspects of social media. Unfortunately, among those people was a particularly haunted individual. A person, often hiding their face from the camera or wearing a coyote skin as a mask, was going live on Omegle on a regular basis to put on a stomach-turning show. While random people connected thinking they were going to have a chat with a like-minded human being, this person would take kittens, skin them alive, and eat their flesh. The complete lack of morals and decency in committing blatant animal abuse was bad enough, but to make matters even worse, the Omegle Cat Killer, as they came to be known, was targeting a specific online community, using hashtags like #furries, #fursuit, #furryfandom, and more. The Omegle Cat Killer was able to directly connect with and expose a group of people to nightmarish images that would affect them on a personal level, apparently taking some kind of sick pleasure in dealing psychological trauma to an entire fandom, as well as those outside of it who were unfortunate enough to cross paths with them, thanks to their use of TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. In addition to Omegle, they were able to poison the minds of thousands, perhaps even millions of people, with graphic animal abuse. The Omegle Cat Killer took online safe spaces and infected them with soulless evil. Unfortunately for them, however, word travels fast on the internet, and since everyone was online at the same time with nothing better to do, it traveled way faster. Nothing cured quarantine boredom quite like internet sleuthing, and very few things in life are as satisfying as bringing an animal abuser to justice. Within a few days, online investigators had a face and a name. 19-year-old Crystal Scott of Rushville, Indiana. Threads upon threads were created on social media, showcasing findings and connecting dots that placed the blame on Crystal Scott's shoulders, beyond a shadow of a doubt. The investigation revealed that Scott was adopting pregnant cats, raising the kittens, and then torturing and executing them for content after they reached a certain age. One particularly horrific instance involved the killer holding the head of a kitten with the skin flayed away, and subsequently, using a finger to extract an eyeball. Once she was done, she would give the remains to her dog, a practice she also documented. Evidence of these acts were traced back as far as November 2019, 6 entire months before her video began to spread. The local police force even became involved earlier in 2019 after reports of Scott's animal cruelty reached them. Unfortunately, they ultimately dismissed the reports as a hoax, facilitating the terror that came the following year, including a neighbor discovering a decapitated dog nearby in April 2020. But finally, all of that was in the past. Thanks to efficient internet sleuthing, Crystal Scott was cornered, and it seemed like her actions would be brought to a swift end. Except, things didn't play out that way. Crystal went live on Facebook on May 3rd to clear her name, giving viewers a tour of her house to show that she wasn't the same person as the cat killer. Despite her attempt, investigators were able to match up items and features of the home to previously released content, which caused the whole plan to backfire on her, incriminating her even further. However, her cruelty didn't stop there. Scott continued to go live with inhumane activities up until July 8th. Thankfully, due to another state's law enforcement getting involved, The FBI was brought in to investigate the matter independently. The Bureau collected incriminating evidence for weeks, and then on July 14, 2020, they struck. The FBI raided Crystal Scott's home, uncovering all kinds of horrors. In addition to 12 cats, 3 dogs, and a smattering of lizards, all of which were still living, agents also found dozens of animal skulls, freezer-stored animal parts, and her phone, which contained all of the Animal Crush videos she had made since the beginning. That was the smoking gun that landed her in handcuffs. In custody, she told FBI agents that she did what she did because her good side loves cats and dogs, but her bad side tells her to do terrible things to them. In May 2021, the Omegle Cat Killer's name entered the news cycle again, but this time, no animals were harmed. About a year after the initial live streams, Scott took a deal to plead guilty. She was sentenced to 30 months in prison for violating the Preventing Animal Cruelty and Torture Act, given a $250,000 fine, and was subject to supervised release after her prison term. An air conditioning system comes to life in a small Florida apartment, keeping the September heat at bay. Cool air passes over the bare skin of the apartment's inhabitant, but he doesn't even notice. He's too engrossed in his work. His Magnumopus is nearly complete. This will show her. This will make her see. The camera is rolling. He adjusts the framing of the final shot one more time as a loving melody fills the silence. Then he sits. The song is drawing to a close. A tremor passes through his hand, rattling the bullets in his revolver. The song ends. Gunshot. Parasocial relationships, murderous obsession, xenophobia. While these failings of the human mind feel ever present now thanks to the internet, they aren't exclusive to the digital age. Examples of these phenomena are present throughout history, including the analog horror story of Ricardo Lopez. As a teenager, Lopez had great aspirations for himself and his future. Unfortunately, he also had a smattering of personal issues that made those goals all but unattainable. He wanted to find love and connection, but was socially awkward and ashamed of his body and inexperience. In his entire life, he never experienced a relationship with the opposite sex, romantic or otherwise. He also wanted to become a great artist and even dropped out of high school to pursue his dreams, but an ingrained inferiority complex and a crippling fear of rejection prevented him from applying for art school or even pursuing his creative spark. Held back in just about every way, Ricardo Lopez became a recluse by the time he was 17, sad, socially stunted, and yearning for things he was too afraid to look for. Instead, he lived in a small apartment in Hollywood, Florida, and supported himself by occasionally working as an exterminator, a menial job he was able to get through his brother. Unfulfilled, life became draining and monotonous for Lopez. Minutes, hours, days slipped through his fingers as he went through the motions of living. But then he found something, a means of escape, a plane of existence where his inadequacies and inferiorities didn't matter. He developed an obsession with celebrities, allowing fantasies of another life to consume him entirely. After several celebrities passed through his system, including one involving actress Jenna Davis, Lopez discovered the obsession that would eventually destroy him. The world was introduced to the Icelandic singer Björk with her debut album in 1993, and from the moment Lopez saw her and heard her music, something snapped inside him. This wasn't just a person, a singer, or an artist. This was an angel. To Lopez, Björk was a symbol of purity and innocence that needed his protection. He quickly became consumed by her and everything he believed she represented. He felt that she was singing directly to him, even though they had never met, and she lived on the other side of the planet. Despite being sexually repressed, Lopez's obsession with Björk wasn't sexual. In his diary, he wrote, "I couldn't have sex with Björk because I love her." No, he wanted more. He wanted to have an effect on her life, to matter, to be important to her. At another point in his diary, Lopez wrote about building a time machine so he could go back to the 70s, become friends with Bjork's family, and become part of her life. He fantasized about helping raise her. His obsession grew, and while he kept his most concerning feelings to himself, his family did know he was a fan of Bjork. His brother reportedly told him, "Get a real woman. You're obsessed." Ricardo Lopez's brother had no idea how right he was, and he wouldn't begin to understand until it was too late. After less than a year, Lopez's infatuation with Bjork mutated into extreme hostility when he made a discovery that was offensive to his personal ideals. The singer had left a long-term relationship to begin dating Goldie, a British music producer, a black man. And after that point, Lopez's diary is rife with anger and venomous racism. "I wasted 8 months and she has an effing lover. I couldn't stand to see her with anyone else, especially, and then a white goddess like her belongs with white men. I must purify the world of this contamination." Feeling disgusted and betrayed, Ricardo Lopez decided he had to do something. He had to punish her. For 15 months, Lopez plotted how to deliver Bjork's punishment. At first, he planned to infect her with AIDS using tainted needles he would obtain from a prostitute. The idea being that she wouldn't die immediately, but would have a disease for the rest of her life. In his twisted way of thinking, he would be the one with her for the rest of her life. When he couldn't figure out how to make the plan work, he decided instead to create a sulfuric acid bomb. Upon detonation, the acid spray would either kill or disfigure Bjork, leaving her with a reminder of Ricardo Lopez every time she looked into a mirror, and accomplishing his primary goal. Lopez viewed his plot as his greatest creative accomplishment, writing in a diary, "I am a failed painter. Bjork is my last masterpiece." As his plan progressed, he began recording himself with an 8mm camera, creating video diaries and documenting his thoughts, feelings, and plans for Bjork's punishment instead of writing in a journal. Viewed now, these tapes can be seen as precursors to the modern vlog format. On September 12th, the day of Bjork's reckoning had arrived. Lopez's final tape shows him completing the bomb, delivering it to the post office, and then returning to his apartment for the final part of his plan. Now that there was no turning back, Bjork's angel of death had one more task, an action that would ensure that he and Bjork would be together forever. He carefully shaves his head and eyebrows, paints his face with a red and black zigzagging pattern, and plays Bjork's music while he sits in a chair, the weight of the revolver in his hand increasing with each passing moment. He's nervous, but he's made his decision already. The song ends. He puts the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. Ricardo Lopez's body wasn't discovered until 4 days later, when his neighbors noticed the smell coming from his room. Following the signs he left behind, law enforcement found Lopez's tapes, watched them, and warned British authorities about the bomb just in time to intercept it before it reached Bjork. She was saved from an act of violence, but ultimately, Ricardo Lopez still accomplished what he set out to do. Bjork knew who he was now, and she'll never forget him. Sneakers squeak against the polished gym floor. Two girls' volleyball teams are playing to the height of their abilities, putting on a show for engaged fans in the bleachers. Back and forth, a spike, an assist. The roar of cheers is almost deafening. But then the gym doors swing open. A blinding sunlight spills into the room, interrupting the game. A dark figure appears in the doorway. Then another. Then several more. A gasp breaks the startled silence. Then all hell breaks loose. It's September 27th, 2006. The world is still reeling from the death of Steve Irwin, but everyone is doing their best to move on. Justin Timberlake's Sexy Back plays on every radio, and Jackass #2 is in theaters, inspiring a whole new generation of, well, jackasses. However, something else happened during this time, something you won't find any official records of, something violent and terrible, something they don't want you to remember. Somewhere in the United States, a girls' volleyball game was interrupted by several armed men. resulting in a massacre that took anywhere from 17 to 24 lives, many of them young children and teenagers. That day, the region was rocked by devastation. Multiple families were destroyed, and the people who committed the act escaped, leaving no trace or evidence in their wake. If you're the curious type, you're wondering, why? Who could have done this? And why is no one talking about it? Depending on who you ask, there could be several reasons for the suppression of this event. School shootings weren't anywhere near as common back then as they are now, so a news story about 24 lives being taken at a volleyball match in 2006 should be easy to find, right? With a body count higher than Columbine, someone must have reported on it. The running theory is that the strike was politically motivated, designed to eliminate a target hiding in the gym. Apparently, the target was so dangerous that their assassination justified a heavy civilian cost. A secret government operation. How else could an event like this be erased? Well, what if we told you that no evidence of this event exists because it never happened? The 2006 volleyball incident is a conspiracy theory that started on 4chan in 2017 when an anonymous user posted a vague recollection of a shooting that took place in either the Dakotas or Nebraska. As is common on the internet, other users began feeding into the post, giving it viability and adding their own spin to the lore, including an image you probably recognize. But it's fake. This image and the others that have been added over time have all been debunked as photoshopped efforts to perpetrate a random internet story. The 2006 volleyball incident is no more real than Slender Man or any other online myth. Don't believe everything you see on the internet.